So don't talk about me.
So we've also got Carrie in Alaska, which is way up there.
Yeah.
So we are all over.
And where's Susan from? I see her on here and I can't see her. She was on here a minute ago.
Uh,
I think she left.
Where's Nancy from?
Kansas.
Kansas. See, some of these people I recognize, but I don't. And they're-
Nancy is the Kansas State FCE president.
Correct.
okay, good.
Okay. I'm gonna mute myself.
All right. Well, I'd like to welcome everybody here. I know we'll just let people pop in as they want to. I'm just hosting. I'm Scott Teeples. I'm the Oregon FCE president. I'm Bonnie's husband, if you guys don't know who that is. That's what I was known at the first national conference I went. I even made my tag that way, Bonnie's husband, because everybody knew Bonnie. Anyway, I'd like to welcome everybody here. Appreciate your time. I'm going to turn the time over to Bonnie. I'm actually going to spotlight her so she can do it on there, and it's going to be all hers.
Okay. I am going to bring up my screen. I hope. Okay, is it coming up?
I think so. There it is.
All right.
Begin it.
All right, there we go. So I'm going to, if you have any questions while I am talking, please put them in the chat or just interrupt, because it's really hard to see hands when I'm sharing screen and can't see all of you anyway. I really appreciate the opportunity to begin with to speak with all of you. Sorry, we're back down and into the pollen. My daughter's facing the same thing today. Anyway, as you all know, the reason for this presentation today is because ACWW has made some major changes, and it's important that we all understand what they are and that we all understand the reasoning behind them. I am excited to have part of the CWC board today. I work with them. That's Country Women's Council, and I appreciate them popping in, and Joe and Pam also popping in today to learn a little bit more about what's going on with ACWW. Excuse me. Excuse me, boy. So I do have a presentation to give, a PowerPoint, and I will be reading from some notes that I have put together. And I hope that you will be willing to ask questions. I'm going to pause after every portion of it and ask for any questions. But if you have questions, like I said earlier, while I'm going, just please go ahead and ask. So the ACWW board met in February of 2022. There were 6 members of us attending in person, and that's the first time we've been in person since 2019. The other 8 members of the board were able to join us via Zoom. Some of them could not travel because their countries still had lockdowns. They could not travel outside of the country. We spent a week discussing the future of FCE, or excuse me, of ACWW, looking at the lessons we could learn from the past, how we could best secure the next 90 years for our organization. There were senior members of staff were also invited to attend, and they put in their input on the areas of the organization that they work with. They did not take any part in voting. they did a really good job of presenting to us and then answering questions and then sitting back and letting us make decisions. While we were there, we examined data from the last 30 years. This includes income, expenditures, membership numbers, and the reports of member societies on their own member numbers and activities. And it was sobering, to say the least, to look at that information. It was clear that income was not growing fast enough to sustain the organization. In real terms, and with inflation considered, declining income was evident. Membership numbers are also declining. Membership of member societies was also shrinking. And we know that in our own organizations, we can see it. Whatever organization we belong to, we are losing members slowly.
Bonnie, do you have slides with these, or is
I will have, but not yet.
okay, all right.
Reports of the Triennial World Conference illustrated the fact that members were not really engaged with ACWW issues. And there are not a lot of member societies that submit their reports. And that's why in my last letter, I encouraged you to please fill out the triennial report when that document is sent to you. There's a complete, well, nearly complete separation of advocacy work and projects, and it's artificial, and it doesn't really reflect our policy objectives of ACWW, and it doesn't reflect the realities of our international aid. The current situation was a result of many years of gradual decline, and it was brought to a head by the COVID pandemic, and it needed to be addressed. Our financial reserves remain healthy, but annual income was insufficient for sustainability. The board agreed that to do nothing was not an option. There are several lessons to be learned from 93 years of operation, and no criticism was made of any previous board or staff for the situation that had evolved. It just was an evolution, and it, like I said just a few minutes ago, was brought to head by the pandemic. So I'd like to summarize some of those lessons here. First, it was believed that we were spreading ourselves too thin. There were so many policy resolutions adopted, it was not possible to focus and work collectively on any one. Work by member societies on our resolutions was not generally reported or monitored. No indicators or timelines had been set, and it was not possible to gauge the impact or to track process of our policy objectives. That's one thing that I was really pleased with Illinois, Jane Chapman. She submitted a report to me about the work that they had done with the resolution on iron deficiency. And I did submit that to ACWW. And they said that was one of the most comprehensive reports that they had gotten on one of the resolutions that had been worked on. We don't reflect back on the policies on our resolutions. We don't look at them to know what we need to be doing. Member societies aren't very often engaged with ACWW issues, although they do want to be part of a network. And I think that was one thing that was really brought to head. We are partnering with an organization who has training on our website about rabies. And I would venture to say that out of the United States, USA area members of ACWW, there's probably only about 3 people that have completed that training or even taken that training. Many members are giving what they could to ACWW. Donations needed to be supplemented from other sources if we are to survive, thrive, and to be an efficient and effective international organization. There's also an over-reliance on donations from the UK and from Northern Europe. And I can see when we get a report of how much was donated by countries, they do, Northern Europe and the UK give an awful lot of money unfortunately, there have been some communication errors or errors in judgment, not communication. Anyway, sometimes when the people in the UK donate to Pennies for Friendship, they wanted to put guidelines on where it could be used and what project it could be used for. So there really wasn't a clear understanding of the difference between the We Fund and the Pennies for Friendship. We also recognize that many members were giving what they could. There are many members in some areas who absolutely do not have the availability to give. And that's why it's important that those of us who are in countries who are better off, more wealthy, that we give what we can to ACWW. Our core supporters are valued and nurtured, and there's a realization that they are not able to give more, especially under these economic conditions. Thirdly, our method of funding projects was not leading to sustainability, and that was incoherent with our policy. There's a question in the chat, it looks like. Faye, I can bring that up and let you know afterwards how much they've donated. And I will tell you, Faye has asked how much the USA has donated. And I do have that. I can get that information to you after this meeting. Our method of funding projects was not leading to sustainability. The projects we've been running do not make a big enough impact on the communities we're seeking to support, and the changes that are achieved do not last long enough. One of the projects that is probably one of the better, well, a couple of them that are better sustained. One is the greenhouses in Mongolia that I think it was Indiana. I'm not certain. Joe, you might correct me. And CWC that worked really hard on raising money for that.
It was CWC project.
CWC project. Thank you. And those, what they did was raise money for, and that's when we raised for a specific project. They raised money for the greenhouses, and those greenhouses are still going as well as can be expected. And that has been a real boon to the areas that where they were given, because they don't have a very long growing season. Another one, and you've seen pictures of this on the Country Women magazine, of the water cistern that was brought into a village square. Some of those women and children walk miles and miles and miles a couple of times each day to get water. And this has been a real boon to their area. Current committee structure doesn't really reflect the diversity of our members. And committee members are not necessarily experts in the field they're expected to contribute to, and that's understandable. The only members who could afford to spend a day or two in London 2 or 3 times a year were able to put their names forward. And that was really unfortunate, because there was not any reimbursement for committee members to be able to attend meetings. They took on an oversight role, but they weren't elected. And a lot of this has led to misunderstandings and inefficiency, both internally and externally. So at this point, are there any questions that anybody has about what I've said?
Actually, it wasn't a hardship. I sat on many committees, and I really didn't care for the way that ACWW explained that whole thing on committees. It sounded like, I don't know, it just sounded like if you did that, you were bad. And you shouldn't have been sitting on it because other people can't do it. So, and I didn't like the way that was projected, Bonnie.
I can understand that. And I appreciate the fact that there are members in some of the more developed countries that can sit on those committees because others cannot. And I know that there are members on those committees that have the best interests of women and families at heart. And they didn't do it just to sit on a committee. I understand that, Jill.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments at this point? All right. So the problems needed addressing, lessons learned pointed to the way forward for new opportunities, and we took the following points forward. Projects and advocacy. That is amplifying the voices of our membership on the issues that affect them, and that cannot be separated. They have those countries that put problems towards us for projects. There is an issue, or they wouldn't be doing it. They need help, but they need long-term sustainable help. Sustained community investment is vital for real change beyond just a single project. And Joe, have you ever had the opportunity to monitor a project?
I have not, no. That was always done by individuals that volunteered in the countries to monitor. For me to fly from the United States over to monitor something in South Africa would be, there was only a small portion of the project's money that was keyed in for monitoring. So
Yes.
if you were in that country, it was not a good idea. I would have loved to, but no.
Okay. I would have loved to too. Another problem is financial literacy amongst participants is vital for the success of ACWW projects. And I think one of what that means is that we all need to understand that it isn't just the money for the project, but there has to be money for follow-up. There has to be money for somebody in the office to put all the input in from the data that's received. There has to be money for, what do they call it? Monitoring and evaluation. So it isn't just donating to a project that covers it all.
If I can interject, the money that was donated was said that some of that money would go towards monitoring. So, for example, if you send in 10,000 US dollars, a portion of that 20%, I think it was 20%.
It was.
It's been a while since I've done a project that was set aside for monitoring. So it was actually taken care of. So when they say that it isn't, I was on board. Maybe it isn't now, but it was all taken care of when you sent in, because it was broke down into percentages.
Yes, and I do know that we have just reduced that percentage. So hopefully more money can go to the actual project than the monitoring. And I think we'll get into the projects a little bit later. There also needs to be increased collaboration with project implementation partners to receive better results. Now, for instance, with the greenhouses in Mongolia, there was a certain amount of teaching that went on, I understand, to teach them how to use the greenhouses, to teach them how to make their crops work, and teach them how to keep the area where the greenhouse is vital so that it can keep producing produce for them. Our efforts and impact are diluted by too many priorities. And I see this, and we've just gone through a range of okaying the projects for this last February's projects, and they're just kind of all over the board. Some of them I didn't feel met with ACWW priorities. And I think that's just a lack of education on those parts who are applying for projects. So I'm going to talk a little bit about projects and the fact that, you know, in many parts of the world, ACWW is known best for its project work. And we want this work to continue in the spirit that it always has. And that is that local women are determining the changes that'll make the biggest difference in their lives. I can't tell a woman in Central Africa what she needs most. I can't tell a woman in even South America what she needs most. They need to determine what they need and how we can help them. Alongside this, we can add international development and experience and expertise to ensure significant, positive, and long-term improvements in the living conditions of rural women. So this means that from 2023 forward, ACWW will fund fewer projects, but with similar amount of annual spending. This means that there'll be more money per project. There will be potential for projects to run over for longer term, especially agriculture, meaning that we can ensure that they are more sustainable. There will be comprehensive program of community investment alongside the core project in terms of capacity building and education. That was mirrored, I think, in the project that was done in Mongolia. There was a lot of teaching and education that went along with it prior to turning them loose, so to speak, with their greenhouses. So we'll use our network of external partnerships to maximize opportunities and benefits and impact and beneficial change. There will be measurable impact, in effect, in-depth collaboration, evaluation, and we can chart the success. And I think that's one of the most important things that we could do, is to be able to chart the success of where our money's going and what it's doing in the world.
Can I
We
interject
will,
something?
yes,
Can I ask a question?
please.
So if we do, because I've thought a lot about this. So if we do less projects, which is okay, how are we going to have that monitored? Did they happen to have a reason behind that? Is the office going to travel and monitor those? Are they going to have people in other countries monitor those? Are we going to work with a larger organization instead of the grassroots organizations? And how long are they going to have those projects going? Year, 2 years, 3 years?
You know, Joe, I think the length of the project, I'll address that first, is going to be determined about the successfuls. For instance, like the agriculture, that definitely, we're not going to see results in a year in agriculture.
Correct.
And so those type of projects will be longer. I know the one that they are working on right now to get started in Papua New Guinea is going to be a long-term project. And there will be teaching modules that go along with those projects. And there will be
those.
Pardon?
Is the office developing those teaching modules?
They are working with the people in the area to develop them. So it won't be what we think they need, it'll be what they think they need. And then we will.
Is the office then working with that, or are we working with, is it, I don't know. I guess I'm a real grassroots kind of girl. And so I think we've got away from that. And so we work with these other larger organizations to make sure that everything's monitored. And so it's kind of like we're, to me, getting away from what projects actually was, but I know we're getting away from what projects actually was anyway, but I just wanted to, so is the office developing, I guess my question is so is the office, along with whoever they are working with, developing all of the strategy then? Is that what's going on?
That's part of it, yes. But there will be committee people from the ACWW board that will be working on it also.
But there are committee people after the next triennium. Will there be committee people?
There will not be committees as they are now. Committees will be board members after that point.
Right. Okay.
They will continue until next year. There will still be committee chairs elected in 2023. And the board will work with those committees.
Okay.
Okay. Let me see where I'm at. I think one of the things that they are really working hard on is to make sure that we're safeguarding our investments in those countries, to make sure that we're not. And I do know that over the last 2 years, it's been hard to monitor projects because of COVID. We have not been able to travel, even within countries, they have not been able to travel to monitor the projects. And I think that that's been a real detriment to ACWW and to the people who were recipients of that project money. It's important that we understand that our projects and the processes we use to amplify the voices of our members are completely and vitally linked. That means that impacts in our projects are sustainable when they exist with an enabling environment. Hopefully, we will be working that the goal is to work with their local and national government bodies so that they will not come in and take control of that it will be the people who are recipients of the projects that will have control. I know that we have seen that in the past, that someplace gets a community garden, and the next thing you know, the community isn't running it, the government's running it. And I know that has not been a good thing. I remember talking with Ruth Shanks about one that she visited, and she was pretty discouraged that the community was not able to uphold that after the government stepped in to take care of it. Okay. I think we've gone through all of that. This is what a core project will look like. Move this so I can tell you. And I want to tell you, I am really sorry about this over here in capacity building, the digital entrepreneurship. When I moved that over here, that's what it looked like. So there will be 3 actual parts to the core project. It'll be capacity building, which will be working with digital entrepreneurship. There'll be capacity building, developing financial literacy, teaching people how to work with the money that we give them, and a capacity building under water and sanitation. There will be a women's empowerment summit that will be held by local community at the start or the end of the core project. It will build capacity and can act as a scoping visit or monitoring visit, and it allows for other elements to be added in. There are 3 parts to that. The capacity building will be the sexual, reproductive, and health rights, introduction to financial literacy, and the rabies educator training. And I know that here in the United States, we don't have a lot of trouble with rabies, but we do still have problems with rabies in the United States. And it would be important for all of us to understand that it's out there. It's still out there. All right. One thing that we decided to do, and I was really in favor of this. I actually tried to get it started on my own a long time ago, and it just did not happen. And that is to have more help, not help, but more support and more input for the area president through a network of ACWW coordinators. It's hard to reach the grassroots member in this organization. I encouraged each one of my national presidents, National Society presidents, when I would send my letter, to send it out to all of their individuals that they had information for. And I will tell you that I got a little bit of pushback from it. The answer that I got back was, you have a list of all of the ACWW individual members and all of the societies, you can send it out. But that doesn't reach the people who are not knowledgeable about ACWW in each organization. And I know that they're there because I know we have them in ours. The board has decided to get this group of ACWW coordinators going. And I do know that there have been several from other countries already applied. And I hope that there's several from the United States applying, because the first meeting for the coordinators will be July 2nd. One of the biggest reasons for this group of coordinators is that each member society will be represented. It's hoped that every member society will have a coordinator. They will get more information from ACWW to the members, and more information from our members to ACWW, and then by way up through the international action, which is the United Nations, the organizations that we belong to there. There'll be more support for the area presidents. They'll strengthen our global network and help amplify your voices internationally, learning, sharing knowledge, and achieving change. Let's go back, sorry. So do you have any questions or comments about the coordinators, or do you want to know a little bit more about how they'll function?
Is
So,
somebody-
Joe?
No, it seems to me like the coordinators will be used more than the area presidents will be used. That area presidents seem to be the person that they'll feed the information into, and then you'll take it overseas. So to me, the coordinators are going to be doing all the groundwork and everything, where the area president.
Well, hopefully they'll be doing some of it. They won't be doing all of it, but they will be doing some of it. And hopefully, Joe, this can reach the people that have not been reachable at this point.
Right. In other words, they'll be using their emails and phones or however to reach their members. I understand that, and that actually will hopefully benefit ACWW by knowledge. But I think it's going to be I'm hard to find those coordinators that are willing to work that hard.
I agree with you. It's going to be difficult. I know that we have a coordinator that's really excited to get going in the national FCE organization. I don't know about any of the other societies. I've written to the society presidents and asked if they have any ideas. And it's going to be some work. It's going to be monthly training meetings and monthly input output meetings. It's going to be difficult, but I think it's going to benefit ACWW in the long run. And I know it will benefit the USA area, because I've had a real difficult time getting through some of the society leadership to get to their members. Joe, you're shaking your head. No, yes, you understand that.
I do understand that. I know you can see me, and I've been making kind of funny faces stuff with some of the stuff. And I don't mean to monopolize your speaking. If please, somebody else talk too. I just have questions, and I'll try to.
I would like to say something on that. Can you hear me?
Yes, Loy, we
I
can.
assume that you can. Thank you. I think this is going to be a huge job for the organization like Country Women's Council, as we have member paying societies, but some of those societies have other groups or clubs that make up that particular society. And it's going, when those fingers would reach out to everybody, it would be a huge network. Now, I'm not against that totally. I think it will be hard to make it run smoothly and to get the end contact to report back to the person above them, who then reports back to somebody else. Now, I'm not against trying it, but I think it'll be a huge undertaking in CWC. Thank you.
Well, the way I see it, Loy, is that each one of your member societies, they're responsible to appoint a coordinator who will meet with me and the area or the world president, as well as some of the office staff. They won't have to go up through the societies. They will meet directly with me and with the world president on Zoom meetings once a month.
Are you expecting a report from 30 people once a month from CWC?
Well, they won't have to give that report to you.
No, excuse me,
You're fine.
So
but they'll have to give it to you, and that's
Yes,
30
they
people
will.
that you'll have
And I
contact
don't-
with.
I
That's-
don't imagine, Loy, that we're going to have something to report from every society every month. I don't think that, but I think that there will be information that can be shared every month, one way or the other, whether it's coming from ACWW for them to disseminate, or if it's questions or help needed from the societies to ACWW.
So I have a,
Will you be sending, okay, will you be sending out a notice to each one of those people to report back to you?
Yes, I will not be. The dates and times for those meetings will be determined by the office, and all of that will come out through the office.
The ACWW office?
Yes, and I will get notice of them as well as each coordinator.
Okay.
so I have a question, and I was going to put it in chat. This is Ellen Rundorf. I wasn't able to do it. It doesn't look like chat is on, but my question is pretty basic. How many member societies are there now in ACWW?
Worldwide,
Well, start with the US and then yes,
with the
worldwide.
US,
I've attended three different triennials, and it is an amazing number of people. I've been very impressed. I'm just curious as to how we're going to keep that big of an organization functioning efficiently in this day and age. But Yes, how many member societies in the US?
Right now, given that there are 2 or 3 that are still in the lapse, I'm thinking 25. Any other comments or questions? All right.
Bonnie, I do have a question.
Yes.
That is up on some of the screens. It may be, they may have to click on the one where it says more, and then it'll be in there, because sometimes there gets too much stuff on the bottom of it. And they added on the whiteboard, so it might be under a little category called more, and then I'll open it up and the chat box is in there.
Okay. All right. There, I saw that come up. All right. And I've already addressed this just a little bit. As far as the training that will be going on. But I feel that there will be time on these Zoom chats for everyone to give input that wants to. And I think it's going to give a good training base for those who might be interested in standing for election to ACWW board in the future. It'll give them a little bit more of information to start with. I will tell you that if it had not been for Joe Ellen Almond and Kay Engelhardt and Bev Earnhardt, I would not have even dared stand for this position. But I watched those ladies serve and I talked to them. I worked with them. They gave me encouragement. But there was still a lot that I would have liked to have known about ACWW before I stood for this position. I've learned a lot. I learned a lot before I even was elected, when we were at our pre-conference board meetings and afterwards. But having a little bit more knowledge would have made me a more effective area president.
So Bonnie, are they suggesting that if anybody wants to stand for a position, they need to be in this group of individuals?
Oh, no, no. They're just saying that that training will help them be more prepared to stand for a position.
Okay,
No.
but it's never been mentioned that if you don't, you cannot stand, because that would not be, that would, to me, that would make it so people couldn't stand if
Yeah.
they actually wanted to. Okay, I just wanted to
No,
know.
they don't have to. I think they're just hoping that the training that they will get from this and the understanding they'll gain will help them to be better leaders when they do stand, more prepared leaders.
Thanks.
All right. Now, we talked about this a little bit too. For the 2023-2026 triennium, the ACWW board members will act as members of all 6 committees and will meet more regularly. You know, Scott and I have talked about this a lot as far as the Zoom. I am so grateful that this platform was out there for us during the pandemic, that we could just step into it and take off. How many times have you been grateful for something that was originally seen as just something else to do? But I can see that ACWW board, I know that committees that I am on in other organizations, these Zoom meetings have been a godsend to each one of us to be able to more fully fulfill our responsibilities. I think that
Okay, there you're back.
Oh, okay, thank you. I think
You got disconnected somehow.
okay, thank you.
There you
I
go.
need to pull this out from under it.
There you go.
There, okay, thank you.
I think that with the current committee structure, they operate quite frequently in isolation. We do get reports as a board from them, but there isn't a lot of integration between the committees. At least I don't see that. And I think that as we come together with the board working as the committee members, there will be a lot more understanding of what needs to be done and a lot more help to get that done. Okay. I try to move my screen so I can read this. You know, we've already started working with a United Nations. We work with partnerships with UNESCO, with the Food and Agriculture Organization, other civil society organizations, and selected private companies that have values that are in harmony with our own. Their work and our work that can come together for empowering rural women and the communities. And I don't, you know, I know there's been some talk about, well, we're changing to rural women in action. The 2018 board adopted that as a tagline. And I think it is more understandable that we have more rural women worldwide than we do women in cities and communities. However, that does not diminish the women who live in cities, who live in communities, because they're all intertwined with the rural woman. We're all part of what those rural women are, what we as rural women are. So we do have a pilot project that will be run along the new sustainable lines to provide education and community development through literacy, financial literacy, access to water, and a multi-village intergenerational community development project. And this will be in, as I said earlier, in Papua New Guinea. It's a pilot for the new programs of projects. This initiative refocuses our efforts on strengthening the capacity of our own member societies and reconnecting the bonds of global sisterhood. One of the biggest concerns over the last 30 years, I should have been moving this, I'm so sorry. When we were talking earlier. Okay, one of the biggest concerns over the last 30 years, and especially over the last 2 years, because of COVID, has been funding. The separation of the funding streams and into restricted projects donations and unrestricted pennies for friendship donation does not line up with ACWW's experience that advocacy and projects are completely and importantly linked. As a board, we agreed to phase out the pennies for friendship moniker and the Women Empowered Fund and replace them with the Rural Women in Action Fund. This single fundraising stream will support all the work ACWW does, allow clearer communication of how we spend the money, and is far more reflective of our modern realities. We remain fully committed to carrying out impactful and effective development projects for addressing the political situations that mean development projects are necessary. You can see that core values, mission, and objectives of ACWW are being strongly upheld, but with a more modern and appropriate way of working. In the coming months, there's going to be, and there's already been one, an open forum for questions. Those notices were sent out to all ACWW individual members and society presidents. And I know that our society president sent it out to the rest of our members. And those forums will be for our members. We'll be launching a revitalized and simplified website. I don't know how many of you have been on there. I'm impressed. I think it's a lot more easy to navigate, and it has a lot more information on it than we had before, or at least maybe it's just that it's more findable for us. There will be a clearer delineation between the old and the new. Increased clarity around impact and sustainability. Our new logo. That was adopted in March of 2022. Now, I know that there's questions about why the change. Does anybody have any thoughts about this logo?
My thought is, why did they not bring it to the membership and just the board decide to change this? We, the members, should have some voice in some portion of the international organization. And so I was just wondering why the membership was not involved.
I don't know that answer, Joe.
And I'd like to add to that, I was kind of surprised that all these major changes were made without going to the membership, that the board had enough power to change so many things without consulting the membership.
I think you'll notice that there will be some resolutions brought forward at the triennial that support these changes, and they will not be made until that is done. When
So
those,
what happens if they vote things down?
then I guess it's back to the drawing board.
I know there are other individuals throughout the world that have contacted me and asked me about how I felt, and I haven't been. I've been very vocal that I think the membership should have had a few more decision-making things. So I just was wondering, how do you feel? I mean, I'm sure everybody on the board agreed because you didn't have to have unanimous, but was there anyone that even objected to any of this, or did you all just follow in a row and say, yeah, this is good?
No, I will tell you, Joe, that this is going to be tough.
Well, now don't get yourself in trouble, because I know
No,
what.
I'm no,
trouble.
I will not get in myself in trouble. I will tell you that there was dissension. There were some pretty hot times. There were times when we all just kind of took a break and went to our rooms and cooled down a little bit and come back.
Can I ask?
It wasn't easy.
Can I ask who actually presented all of this stuff? I mean, it had to have been from someone, either someone high on the board or the office, and I don't know. I was just wondering that, it's just a.
I know that Magdi had been working with Tish for many months on a lot of it. And it couldn't have been easy for her during that time either. Tish did the bulk of the presenting. Poor Nick was saddled with the internet that we were told that was going to be acceptable for what we needed to do. And instead of that, Nick and I and a couple of other members of the board used our hotspots to support it. So he was busy with a lot of that, but it was presented by Tish. When it came time for the logo change, we went through about 4 or 5 different scenarios of logos before we settled on one. So it wasn't just all voting yes. And even those who were joined us on via Zoom brought forth a lot of not hot topics, but we had some hot conversations, I will tell you. It wasn't just rubber stamped. It took a
So
lot of thought.
It just seems funny that, or not funny, it just seems that with this big of a decision on changing the logo and changing different things, that the board did not feel like the membership actually should have any kind of voice in this at all. So that's
I understand. I understand. I fully understand. And I can feel for you because I felt it. Because that's not, you know, I remember in my own organization refusing to vote for something at one point because I hadn't had chance to talk to my state. It's when I was state president. But I also know that it would have been, you know, when you elected us, you put your trust in us too, to do what's right for the organization to go forward. I do want to tell you that I know that change feels strange. It's hard. It isn't easy. And, you know, we may think we've always done this, we've always done that, but, you know, you need to think about too, the Pennies for Friendship Fund wasn't always called Pennies for Friendship. It was called $1 Million Member or Million Member Fund first. And then it evolved. And I think one of the biggest things that has concerned me over the We Fund is that it took us so long to get people to understand the 6 pots that we were working with. And still, we still receive money from organizations and individuals, and it's marked for Water for All, or it's marked for another challenge that has been gone for 15 years. And it's just hard to communicate all of the changes to everybody all the time. It's hard to get people to change.
it is.
And I really, I feel, so you guys that know me know that this is par for the course, but it's something that touches me. But I do feel that if we want ACWW, we're 93 years old. If we want it to go another 90 years, there's got to be major changes. We can't keep doing what we've done and keep, what is it? I remember hearing, I remember reading, you know, if you keep doing the same old thing and you keep getting the same old results, then you need to change. And I feel that's what we do need to do, is change.
I agree we need to stay up with the times, but, and I'm, ACWW is my heart too, you know that.
I know. I know.
But I guess my biggest concern, excuse me, is the way that it was done. And I mean, the logo's okay. It says who, what, where, whatever.
Yeah.
It's just that there's just a few things that I think, and I suppose the bylaws state that you guys, the board can make all the decisions, and we, the members, need to donate. But if we don't get any voice in that, you're going to lose donations also.
Yeah.
So, and we need the donations to survive. We need people to understand ACWW, but if you don't give the membership a little bit, and it's not you, Bonnie,
I understand that.
I told the board the other day on my finance meeting the same thing I'm saying today, almost. But it's easier to talk to you in this group. But to keep ACWW going and going strong, because I 100% believe in this organization, they have to think about the membership also. So.
You're right. You're right. And you know, it's not easy. It's not easy wearing those hats and being those people. And we knew that there was going to be pushback from people, and we all knew that we'd be stronger for it in the end. And I really believe one of my quotes that got put in the magazine, and I didn't know that that's where it was going to go, is that these changes will make sure that ACWW doesn't just survive, but it can thrive. But it's going to take all of us getting behind it and being supportive. But that also doesn't mean you can't voice your opinion, because we all need to be able to do that. And I think that that's what makes us who we are, is that we can talk about this and talk to people and maybe help gain a little bit more understanding. I'm going to quit sharing my screen. At least I'm going to try. Okay, there we go. All right, Scott, you can take the spotlight off me, and then if anybody else has any questions. Looks like there's a couple of things in the chat. So Carolyn Rundorf said, in the end, it is still an organization that has been founded and run by English women. While they are open to groups all over the world and they appreciate the money coming in from the USA, it still operates with British rules. And that is so true. We have to, that GDPR and the charity laws, oh my word. And I like what she said. Carolyn said, actually, the new logo may appeal to younger women and make the organization look more forward, future looking. And I think one of the things that I have always had a hard time with is when I wear my ACWW pin, the old one, it didn't say who we were and what we did. It said, you always had to explain what ACWW was. And now they know that we're Associated Country Women of the World, and we are women in action, rural women in action. So Faye Spencer gave a thumbs up. Let me see if I missed someone. Okay. Carolyn said, I appreciate the efforts you have put into this worthwhile organization, and the changes need to be done so it can survive. It was lovingly called an awful collection of wander women at one time. Yeah, we still are a little bit, don't we? We tend to wander off and do things. All right. Any other comments? Yes.
This is Linda in Oregon.
Hi.
Now my group has asked the difference between the money for the ACWW walk and pennies for friendship. Do they go to different places?
Actually, where you, at this point, you guys tagged yours that you sent for food sustainability, right?
Uh-huh.
Yes. So that will go into the WePot fund for food sustainability. From now on, it will all go into the same pot to be used for projects and for the support of ACWW.
Oh, okay.
From now, I've got to clarify that. After April 29th, everything that comes in that's pennies for friendship is in the Rural Woman in Action Fund. They are still taking donations up until July for the We Fund. And after that point, they will no longer accept donations for We Fund pots. It will all go into the Rural Women in Action Fund. The money that is already earmarked in We Fund pots will be spent by the end of the year in those individual pots for projects. Because it was already marked for those certain projects or certain areas, it will continue to be spent out through the end of the year. Because it, like I say, it was marked for those.
Okay, thank you.
You bet. Artist says a good job explaining the changes and upcoming programs for all of the societies and their members. Thanks, Artist. Everybody, you want to unmute and just talk, and I need to go back to gallery. Here we are.
I'm Alice Walker, known as Loy Walker, is on presently. I have a question, and it's maybe very dumb, but it's a question.
It's never dumb.
The money we send in to ACWW, will there be, quote, two pots, one that is for administration and that kind of thing, and one for projects? Or is it all going to be one pot and administration use what they need and everything else go toward projects? How is it being divided?
It's going into one pot, Loy, but there will still be the same amount of money, if not more, spent on projects, even though we will not be funding as many. The projects will be longer term, and more money will be put in those projects to make them more sustainable in the long run.
Thank you.
So about the same amount of money will be spent for each thing as it is now, if not more.
Thank
for
you.
projects. You bet.
Will the projects be with United Nations? I mean, you said something at the beginning that the United Nations and the projects were one. So when we say projects, it doesn't necessarily mean that all the money will go to what I'm saying is what we think projects are, like the Mongolia thing, or what I say. It's going to be a combination of United Nations and projects together. I'm not explaining that very well, Bonnie. Can you do that?
Well, just that we will be using our partners more when it comes to our projects. So they will have, no, we will have more of an impact because we will be coming from ACWW with the not monetary support, but the support of, for instance, UNESCO and Food and Agriculture Organization.
Over. I think it's over.
I think we just need to somehow make it clear to everybody about the difference between what we think projects are, because I think that's where Loy's going. What we
Yes.
think projects are from the United States view to what it actually is. So maybe if you could come up with a clarification, maybe you did, I don't know, but there's got to be something that makes everyone understand the difference between what projects we think are projects and what. So.
I agree, because it's going to be a complete mindset change. Well, not complete, but a different mindset for each one of us. We're going to have to realize that it's not going to be, and there may be something like the Mongolia project again, who knows, but it will be a bigger, more sustainable project that will benefit more people in that area than those people that are.
Well, okay, there was a conversation once in one of my meetings that a long time ago that maybe ACWW would have a huge project, just in kind of like we did oh, what was the one that the last time's vice president did? Zero hunger.
Yes.
That the whole, everybody would be involved in. It might be something more like that than individual little projects, maybe.
I can see that happening. I would hope that would happen because that would get everyone involved in more fundraising for it. But
Right.
it would also bring awareness about the hunger and the waste situation in this world. And it's not just people in developed nations either.
Well, I think when you were talking at the beginning about resolutions, we have so many that we go through and we say yes, 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 or no, that maybe there'll be fewer of those and we can key in on those as a more important factor than having 10 or 15 that you can pick and choose from your funds from. Maybe, maybe that's an avenue they were thinking about too. So
I know that it is, Joe. To begin
Okay.
with, last year, how many did we do? 19 resolutions in 2019 or in 2019? You can't even begin to work on what the United States worked on too. We worked on the pollinators and we worked on the
Iron
iron
deficiency.
deficiency.
Yeah.
And how many other countries worked on those?
Right.
Who knows? Because people don't report that either.
Right.
to
We
what they
probably
do.
worked on them because we submitted them too.
Well, and that's true. And I think that might be what happens worldwide. And
Mhm.
unfortunately, with resolutions, the purpose for the resolutions is to bring us all together working for a common goal. And if there's 19 common goals, it's just a major undertaking. You cannot do it. We
Right.
found it difficult. Now, see, in Oregon, we did 2 lessons on the bees, and those have both been on our Zoom. No, I think we did one in our meetings and one on Zoom. But it's difficult if you don't understand the reasoning behind working on the resolutions.
Bonnie, I have a question about the committee members.
Yes.
I mean, I've never been on a committee. I do know that I've seen after a triennial, they'll call for committee members. What is the logic of only board members being on the committees? Because to me, that's narrowing down how many people, I'm sorry, to me, that's stretching the board too thin is what I'm thinking.
I understand that. But I also look at it from the fact that now the board will be more involved in all aspects of ACWW.
Oh, that's true. Okay.
Instead of just getting a report, we'll be working on it.
Okay.
Any other thoughts? All right. So to some of you, I did get a strategic plan sent out. Unfortunately, one of our members on the CWC board found, well, I'll have to back up a little bit. So first, a strategic plan was sent to us, and within 2 hours, a revised strategic plan was sent saying, oh, there was a typo in the first one, so disregard that. So then one of our CWC board members found a typo in the second one. So I do have a corrected strategic plan that I will have Scott send out to all of you. Unfortunately, I don't think it's made for United States and Canada paper. So you are going to have to probably just read it online unless you want to cut off words when you try to print it. And then when everybody gets back in the office, we'll probably get a strategic plan for Canada and United States paper so that we can print it. I had a hard time when Annette, even after she told me where the typo was, I read it 3 or 4 times. That's why you should never proof your own stuff. Somebody else should always proof your stuff. All right. Any other questions? If not, I'll just turn it back to Scott. And Faye, I will address that to you. Oh, okay. All right. Debbie says, in the past, I think donations from our county have been too hard to figure where to go. In the future, we can send ACW donations to you as an officer, or maybe to NAFCE to forward, not to make it difficult for you, but hoping for a good solution we can manage. Thank you. So Debbie, probably the easiest thing would be is to send it to National FCE on the donation, on the slip that you use your, what's that called, artist? That slip we have to send Susie. Note on there that it is an ACWW donation for Rural Woman in Action Fund. And then she can,
There's a line on our membership form when we send it in every year that they can do their donations to the ACWW.
yes, they just need to note on there
Yeah.
that it is
Yeah.
ACWW.
Yeah.
And if they collect something in between that time, I think you can just send it to Susie Martell or the treasurer, whoever that is, and note that it is for the Rural Woman in Action Fund. And then Susie can forward it on.
Or even just to the office and Judy would get it to her also.
That's true. You can send it to me. I do not have a separate ACWW account. And so you would need to make it out to ACWW and I could mail it for you. That's not a problem. Any other thoughts? All right. You're back on, Scott.
All right. Well, thank you, Bonnie. It's been interesting. I actually learned a few things.
Thank you, Scott.
You're welcome. Who's that? Said thank you.
Lloyd.
Look,
Oh, all right.
Alice Walker.
Oh, well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. I'm doing these and I kind of feel like Bonnie, you know, and like I said, we've talked about it, you know, Zoom is far from in-person meetings, but it sure allows us to do a lot of things. So it's been one of the blessings of this whole COVID thing. So I'm just going to I'm going to turn the recorder off. That way you can talk and say anything you want that won't be recorded. And anyway, I'll just leave it open. And if people want to just talk for